So during object creation, you can view your images as a per slice view like you would have in the slice mode or as a full volume view. These buttons work the same whether the object has already been created, like you can see here in this option called Surfaces 2 for this object here, or if you're in the Creation Wizard. The way you'll use this is click on this top button. I think it looks like a little yellow post-it note, and we'll switch to the slicer rendering button. It's really similar to what you can see when you use slow slice mode on the top versus 3D view, but it actually lets you see the outline of your surface object or your spots object or filament or cells object. Any of the objects this will work on. What you'll see when you click on the slicer rendering button is a ball and arrow that you can see here, and I can zoom in to that. You can move this around by right clicking and clicking on the ball. Don't click on the arrow. You want to move the ball. If your computer mouse has a thumb scroll wheel, you can use this thumb scroll wheel to slide through the different Z-planes. If you don't have a thumb scroll wheel, you can grab the ball out here and pull it in one direction or the other to move through the different Z-planes. And I can hit reset here to reset my view. And so you can see here the yellow outline of the already created surface that's present along with the channel information on that specific slice. And I can move through the different, move over here to show you that it's just going to showcase one single slice at a time. And it's not going to actually show you any of the volume or object data outside of that specific plane that we're looking at. I can make this section larger if I want to. So if I wanted to make this a 2 micron thick section, I can do that. And this will showcase 2 microns here, kind of like extrapolated information, like projected on the single Z slice. I can also align my slice to not be just showing the Z plane. I can actually align it to any of the other planes. So this align slicer to the XY plane is going to show you going through the Z stack. The XZ plane is going to show you like your Y, right? So I can switch through here and look at what my Y signal is and how it correlates to my object creation. And I can do that same thing here for the YZ plane, which is the X plane. And I can look at it the same way I did before. And once again, you can move through the slice by grabbing that ball. And now I will go back to this align slicer to the XY plane, because this is probably the most standard plane that you'll want to look at, and I'll do a lot smaller extended section. I can also look at the slice through whatever plane I want. This kind of works like an oblique slicer where you can have it on any specific plane going through. You're not limited to being like the Z projection kind of a look or an X or a Y. You can actually change this by grabbing the arrow and moving it around. Eventually, or inevitably, I should say, you'll definitely incorrectly click on this arrow. And the way you can bring it back to having like the normal view is to, once again, click on this second button here and just say align slicer to XY plane or whatever plane it wants to. And it'll bring you back to that like standard plane dimension without any like tilt there. And then this button here, if you hover over it, it's a rotate, zoom, and center viewing area to fit orthogonal slicer view. So if I zoom in here and then pick that, it just kind of resets it back to however large my field of view is here. I think that's all of the buttons here, but you can see if I go into object creation, so just add a new surface and then move to the next step, I can do this exact same process with these same buttons and look at like my thresholding and what my threshold looks like for the outline for all of the different steps in the Creation Wizard. There's no limit here. So the slicer will work the same if you're in the creation mode or after object creation. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.